Welcome to the Reed Flute. Find a comfortable position, take a slow, deep breath, and let the day gently fall away as we begin. At the first watch of the night, a small caravanserai outside Konya had fallen into the hush that comes after supper. The mules had stopped stamping. The merchants had folded their ledgers. A clay lamp burned in a niche, and beside it a reed flute lay across a strip of wool, as if it too had grown tired of speaking. A traveler named Hamid sat apart from the others. Dust clung to the hem of his robe. His hands were cracked from the road. He had come from a village where the pomegranate trees stood empty after a hard frost, and where a grave newly covered with earth held the woman who had known the sound of his footsteps at the door. No one asked him to tell the story. Grief had already told it in the way he lifted his cup, drank nothing, and set it down. Near midnight, Maulana Rumi entered with two dervishes. He did not bring noise into the room. He only brought the kind of attention that made even the lamp flame stand upright. The keeper of the caravanserai placed a cushion for him near the wall, and someone set the reed flute in his hands. Rumi did not play at first. He looked toward Hamid, not directly, but the way a person looks toward a wounded bird without casting a shadow over it. Then he began to breathe into the reed. The note was low, almost rough. It did not try to cheer the room. It remembered. When the sound faded, Hamid spoke. His voice was small from disuse. "For 40 nights," he said, "I called the holy name. I called until my throat felt like dry leather. Then a thought came to me in the dark. It said, 'No answer has come. Enough. Be silent.' Since then I have been silent." The men near the door lowered their eyes. A coal shifted in the brazier with a soft red crack. Rumi held the flute across his knees and told an old tale. There was once a man who spent his nights saying, "Allah, Allah," until the syllables became the thread by which his heart hung over the world. One night, weariness entered him like cold entering a house through a broken tile. A mocking whisper said, "Where is the reply? All night there is only the sound of thine own mouth." The man bowed his head. The name stopped on his tongue. He slept as one falls into a well. In the last part of the night, a messenger of mercy came to him in a dream, robed in green shadow and dawn. "Why didst thou stop calling?" the messenger asked. The man answered, "Because no, here I am came back to me." Then the messenger said, "The calling itself was the answer. The longing placed in the throat was already the hand at the door. If the one had not turned toward thee, how couldst thou have turned at all?" Rumi let those words settle without pressing them. He did not say that Hamid's loss was light. He did not say that the grave was not a grave. He only lifted the reed once more and let one trembling note cross the room. Hamid's lips moved. At first there was no sound. Then, very quietly, he spoke the name again. It was not the cry of a man who had received what he wanted. It was the cry of a reed that had remembered the reed bed even while lying in a stranger's hand. A loss not chosen can make silence feel like proof of abandonment. Yet sometimes the ache itself is the lamp still burning in the niche. When the room feels unanswered, may the ache itself keep you company. The lamp burned lower, and the night remembered another heart that had never known the sea. Far south of Shiraz, where the land gives itself to salt wind, a royal ship moved across the black water of the Gulf. Saadi told of such a crossing, and in the night of the tale the sail was pale as a folded wing. The king sat beneath an awning. His servants kept the lanterns from swinging too wildly. Dates and almonds lay untouched in a brass dish, for the sea had begun to lift and settle with a slow breathing of its own. Among the company was a young mountain slave who had never seen open water. He had known stone paths, goat bells, narrow valleys, and snow tucked into the high creases of hills. His feet understood ground that did not move, but the ship's planks groaned beneath him, and every dark swell seemed to rise like a wall with no door. At first, he tried to be ashamed of his fear. He pressed his palms to his knees. He stared at the small lamp tied to the mast. But the water kept speaking against the hull. Soon he began to cry out. He clutched the ropes. He begged to be taken back to land. His fear disturbed the king's rest, and the courtiers grew irritated, though none of them could lend the boy ashore. On that ship was an old physician with a beard white as sea foam. His eyes were not stern. They had watched many kinds of trembling. He bowed to the king and said, "This servant has not yet known what the ship is saving him from. With permission, there is a cure." The king gave a small nod. 2 sailors tied a rope around the young man's waist. Their hands were steady, and they kept hold of him as one holds a frightened child near a threshold. Then they lowered him over the side. The cold sea took him to the chest. The ship rose above him, suddenly dear. The planks he had cursed became a palace. The groaning hull became a cradle. He struck the water with his hands, gasping, until the sailors drew him back and wrapped him in a wool cloak. After that, he sat quietly beside the mast. Water streamed from his hair. His breath still shook, but he no longer cried out. Now the moving deck felt like mercy. Now the lantern tied to the mast seemed as beautiful as a star caught within reach. The courtiers laughed a little, but the old physician did not laugh. He only watched the boy touch the planks with both hands, feeling again and again the rough wood beneath his palms. Saadi's tale is not gentle because the sea is gentle. It is gentle because it knows how easily a person forgets the plank already carrying him. The young slave had lost the mountain path without choosing the loss. He had been taken into a vastness he did not understand. Before the water, the ship had felt like danger. After the water, the same ship became refuge. Nothing had changed but his knowledge of what was beneath him. By dawn, when the first line of silver opened behind the clouds, the boy slept with his cheek against a coil of rope. The king looked at him and said nothing. The physician poured water from a clay cup and drank slowly. The ship went on, creaking softly, as all vessels do between one shore and another. There are losses that feel like being carried out over depth. A familiar ground vanishes, and the heart cries for a hillside it may never stand upon again. Still, somewhere under the shaking, there may be one plank, one breath, one lamp tied to a mast. May the ground that remains beneath you be felt again before sleep. In the galley, a clay pot clicked against another, and the sound carried the night toward Nasreddin's lane. In Aksahir, when the moon was thin as a fingernail clipping, Nasreddin Haja borrowed a large copper pot from his neighbor. It was not an elegant pot, but it was dear to the neighbor. Its handles were worn smooth by many hands. Its belly was dented in 2 places. It had held wedding rice, winter soup, and the thick grape syrup made after harvest. Nasreddin came for it just after evening prayer, carrying a folded cloth over one arm. "My cousin has arrived with children," he said. "Their stomachs are louder than the mosque drum. Lend me the big pot for one night, and may the blessing return to thy house." The neighbor hesitated, then gave it. Nasreddin bowed as if receiving a royal decree and carried the pot home through the blue lane. 2 days later he returned. In his hands was the same large pot, polished more brightly than before. Inside it sat a small new pot, round and shining. The neighbor looked at the little pot. "What is this?" Nasreddin placed a hand over his heart. "Joy has visited thy household. During the night, thy pot gave birth." The neighbor's eyes widened. He knew pots did not give birth. He also knew that a free little pot was sitting inside his large one. He coughed, stroked his beard, and said, "Ah, God is generous." Nasreddin smiled and went away. Weeks passed. Rain darkened the lane. One evening, Nasreddin came again. "My house is full of guests," he said. "Lend me the big pot once more." This time the neighbor handed it over quickly. "Perhaps, In some corner of his mind, another small pot was already forming. But 3 days passed, then 4. No pot came back. At last the neighbor went to Nasreddin's door and knocked with the knuckles of a man whose patience had become thin. Nasreddin opened the door wearing a grave expression. He looked at the ground. "Brother," he said softly, "prepare thy heart." The neighbor gripped his belt. "What happened?" "Thy pot has died." The neighbor's face reddened. "Died? What foolishness is this? Since when does a pot die?" Nasreddin sighed with great tenderness. When it gave birth, no one objected to its living nature. Why refuse the sorrow after accepting the joy? The neighbor opened his mouth. Then he closed it. Somewhere behind his anger, a small lamp of embarrassment was lit. He had welcomed the impossible when it arrived as gain. He had cursed the impossible when it arrived as loss. Nasreddin did not keep the pot forever in most tellings. In the softer version, he brought it out after letting the lesson sit long enough to cool. The neighbor took it back without the little pot inside, and without the old certainty that ownership was as solid as copper. The lane was quiet. A cat slipped along the wall. From a kitchen nearby came the smell of onions browning in oil. The neighbor held the pot to his chest and felt its dented belly, as if making sure it had truly returned from the country of the dead. Nasreddin's joke was not only about greed. It was about the strange bargain people make with the world. They believe the world when it adds. They quarrel with it when it subtracts. The same hand seems kind in spring and cruel in autumn, though the hand has not changed. A loss not chosen can feel like a thief at the door, yet many of the things grieved were never owned in the way fear imagined. They were lent into the house for a season, a face at the table, a voice in the courtyard, a strength in the body, a plan with morning light on it. Their presence was real. Their leaving is real. The heart may ache without pretending the pot was eternal. May the borrowed cups of life rest easier in your hands tonight. The smallest pot held a little rainwater, and in that dark circle another thirsty man appeared. Rumi told of a man who was thirsty beside running water. The tale began at the edge of a garden after sunset, when the last heat of the day still clung to the stones. A narrow stream moved below a high mud brick wall. It came from the mountains, cold and clear, carrying bits of leaf and moonlight between its banks. The man stood on the wall, looking down. His lips were cracked. His tongue felt thick in his mouth. The water was close enough to hear, close enough to see, but not close enough to drink. The wall on which he stood was too high to climb down from safely. He had reached the very edge of relief and found a barrier under his own feet. For a while he only groaned. Then he knelt and touched one of the sun-baked bricks. It was loose. He pulled it free and dropped it. The brick struck the water with a round, satisfying sound. Plosh. The man closed his eyes. The sound entered him almost like a sip. It did not wet his mouth, but it reminded him that water was real. He pulled another brick loose and threw it. Plosh. The stream seemed to laugh in the dark. Brick by brick, he began to unmake the wall. Dust coated his fingers. Mud scraped his nails. Each time a brick fell, the water answered. Each time the wall lowered, the man came nearer to the stream. After many bricks, the water spoke in the language water uses in Sufi tales, which is clearer than human speech because it never pretends to be separate from its source. "Poor thirsty one," said the stream. "Why throw bricks at me? What benefit is there in breaking the wall?" The man, sweating and trembling, smiled for the first time. "Two benefits," he said. "First, I hear thy voice with every brick. Second, with every brick I remove, I come closer to thee." The stream went on moving. It did not argue. The man continued through the night. The moon lifted. The garden darkened behind him. A fox passed once along the far bank and paused, listening to the strange rhythm of brick and splash. By the time the eastern sky had softened, the wall was low enough. The man climbed down slowly, knees shaking, and knelt beside the stream. He did not scoop the water grandly. He bent like a beggar. He placed his mouth near the moving surface and drank. Rumi's story carries a quiet mercy for those who feel broken by what they did not choose. The wall did not fall because the man hated it. It fell because thirst had become stronger than height. Some losses strike like a hand against the wall of a life. A room is emptied. A letter arrives. A doctor speaks. A beloved voice no longer answers from the next room. At first, the breaking seems only ruin. Bricks that once gave shape to the day lie scattered in the water. But the thirsty man noticed something grief often hides. A broken wall can become a lower wall. What seemed like collapse may also be the slow removal of what kept the soul too high above the stream. He did not bless thirst while his mouth was dry. He did not call the wall kind while trapped upon it. He only kept listening for the water. The sound was enough to make the next brick bearable. At last, when he drank, the water did not ask how gracefully he had descended. It received him with the same cold kindness it had offered all along. May every fallen brick inside you make the hidden water sound nearer. The splashes faded into wings, and the night lifted toward a falcon who had lost the king's wrist. In Attar's valley of speaking birds, there was a falcon who had lived near kings. His hood was sewn from soft leather. His bells were silver. His jesses had been rubbed with oil until they shone in lamplight. He knew the smell of horses, the cry of huntsmen, and the thrill of rising from a royal wrist into clean morning air. When the hoopoe called the birds toward the long road, the falcon did not hurry. He sat high on a carved perch in the mews, chest bright, eyes sharp beneath the hood. "Why should I cross deserts?" he said. "The king's hand is my mountain. The king's tent is my sky. When the hunt begins, I fly from the noblest wrist in the world. What could be higher?" The other birds murmured. Some admired him. Some envied him. A partridge scratched at the dust. A small finch tucked its beak under its wing. The hoopoe, who had seen more roads than praise, looked at the falcon for a long while. "That wrist," she said, "is warm today. Tomorrow it may wear another bird. The tent is silk today. Tomorrow it may be folded and carried away. The king's glance is a lamp, but a lamp in another's hand." The falcon tightened his claws around the perch. He did not like this speech. It sounded too much like wind at the edge of a door. Not long after, the king died. Some tellings say he fell ill after a winter hunt. Some say another ruler took his place and preferred a younger hawk with whiter feathers. The falcon did not understand the reasons. He only knew the old wrist was gone. For days he waited in the mews. The leather hood smelled of dust. No familiar hand lifted him. No horse stamped at dawn for his flight. Servants came and went. One forgot to fasten his bells. Another moved his perch into a darker corner to make room. The falcon, once praised for his swift descent, lowered his head. His loss had no courtesy in it. No one had asked whether he was ready to become ordinary. At twilight, the hoopoe came to the small high window. She slipped through the lattice and landed near him. Her crest rose and fell in the gold dusk. "Now," she said, "the road may begin." "I have been disgraced," said the falcon. "No," said the hoopoe. "A glove has been taken away. That is not the same as a wing." The falcon looked down at the leather strips around his legs. The hoopoe pecked gently at the knots. One loosened, then another. She did not tear them. She worried at them with patience until the falcon could lift his feet without the old pull. Outside, the sky widened. It had always been there, though the falcon had mistaken the king's wrist for the whole of heaven. He flew badly at first. He had been trained to return. Open distance frightened him. He missed the weight of command, the known signal, the meat placed neatly on a glove. Yet the air did not reject him. Night after night, He learned to circle by stars instead of banners. Attar's birds are often human hearts wearing feathers. The falcon is the heart that has lost a place of honor, a role, a beloved hand, a room where it knew how to be received. Such loss can feel like being set down in a darker corner. But the hoopoe did not ask the falcon to despise the wrist he loved. She only showed him that the wing was older than the glove. May the place that no longer holds you loosen without shame. From the loosened leather rose the scent of old wool and healing herbs, and Rabia's lamp came into view. In Basra, in the deep part of the night when even the market dogs grow quiet, Rabia walked through a narrow street with a small lamp in her hand. The flame was sheltered by a pierced brass cover, and its light trembled in little stars across the walls. Her cloak was plain. Her steps were light. Those who saw her at that hour said she seemed to be walking towards someone already near. Near the doorway of a bathhouse sat a man with a cloth tied around his head. He was not old, but pain had made him feel ancient for the evening. He pressed both hands to his temples and groaned loud enough for the empty street to hear. "Ah, my head," he muttered. "What misery! What punishment! What a bitter world, to put such pain beneath the skull." Rabia stopped. She did not scold him. Pain is not eased by the pride of those who are painless. She lowered the lamp so its gold light touched the dust near his sandals. "How long has thy head ached?" she asked. The man squinted up at her. "Since sunset." "And before sunset?" He frowned. "Before sunset it was well." "For how many years was it well?" He was irritated now, but Rabia's voice had no edge in it. He thought, 30 years, perhaps more. Rabia nodded slowly. The lamp flickered between them. "For one evening of pain," she said, "thou hast wrapped thy head in a bandage and filled the street with complaint. For 30 years of ease, where was the banner of thanks?" The man's mouth opened, then rested. His hands loosened from his temples. The pain did not leave at once. The cloth did not fall away like a miracle in a storyteller's hand, but something in him became wider than the ache. He leaned back against the wall. The stones were cool through his robe. He heard, perhaps for the first time that night, the water running inside the bathhouse, the breathing of a sleeping donkey nearby, the faint tapping of Rabia's lamp cover in the wind. Rabia turned to go. After a few steps, she paused and looked back. "When the head aches," she said more softly, "do not pretend it does not ache. Only do not make the ache the whole kingdom." Then she went on through the lane. The man remained under the small patch of lamplight she had left behind. His headache still beat like a little drum. But around the drum there was air. Around the air there was night. Around the night there was the mercy of 30 years he had never counted. By morning, he untied the cloth, washed his face, and walked to the mosque before the first call. He did not become a saint. He still complained on other days, especially when the bread was stale or the tax collector came early. But whenever pain narrowed his sight, he remembered Rabia's question and felt for the unbandaged places. Loss often ties a cloth around one part of the heart. A person gone, a house sold, a future closed like a shop shutter at dusk, and suddenly that one sorrow seems to cover the sky. Rabia did not ask the man to be grateful for the pain. She asked him to notice that the pain was not alone. There may still be warm bread somewhere on the table. There may still be breath moving in the chest. There may still be one friend who knocks gently, one lamp that has not gone out, one memory not sharpened into a knife. May the one pain that found you lie down among the mercies still breathing. The bandage softened in the dark, and a small bird stirred beneath Junayd's sleeve. In Baghdad, when the tigress carried Moonlight in broken strips, Junayd gathered his students in a courtyard behind the Kanka. The air smelled of damp earth and sesame bread cooling on trays. A fig tree leaned over the wall, its leaves dark and still. On the ground before Junayd sat a covered basket. The students were young in the way serious students are young. Their robes were patched neatly. Their eyes were bright with the wish to be approved. Each hoped the master would see in him a secret readiness. Junayd lifted the cloth. Inside were small white birds, warm and breathing, their heads tucked nervously against their wings. He gave one bird to each student. "Carry it away," he said, "and go to a place where no eye sees. Return when the task is finished." The old versions of this tale speak with the severity of old training. The students understood that the command was meant to test the difference between quick obedience and living awareness. One by one, they bowed and went out into the night. Some went behind garden walls. Some entered abandoned rooms. One climbed down near the riverbank, where reeds hid him from the road. Another walked beyond the city gate to a ruined watchtower. They returned before dawn, each carrying the proof of having done what he thought was asked. All returned except one. Junayd sat beneath the fig tree as the sky paled. He did not ask for haste. He sipped water from a clay cup. The students whispered. Some were pleased with themselves. Some wondered whether the absent one had lost his nerve. At last, the missing student came through the gate. His name was Farid, and he was the quietest among them. His bird was still alive beneath his cloak. It blinked in the thin dawn. The others looked at him with pity, as though he had failed a simple matter. Junayd said, "Farid, where hast thou been?" Farid bowed his head. Dust marked his forehead. "Master, I went first to my room and closed the door. But the one was there. I went to the empty stable. The one was there. I walked to the river. The water knew. I went outside the walls and stood among stones where no person could see me. But the one who sees without eyes was there also. So I could not find the place." Junayd's face softened. He opened his hands, and the little bird fluttered from Farid's cloak to the fig tree. For a moment, all the students watched its white body tremble among the leaves. Then Junayd said, "This one has returned with the task completed." No one spoke. The courtyard had become large around them. The students who had sought hidden corners began to understand that secrecy from people is a small thing. The deeper question is not whether sorrow, fear, anger, or love can be concealed from neighbors. The deeper question is whether the heart believes it has ever been unseen by the friend. Farid stood with empty hands. He had not done what others did, yet he had obeyed the truth inside the command. For those carrying a lost not chosen, there can be a private room where grief is locked away. The public face washes, answers, bargains for fruit, smiles at the right moments. Behind the closed inner door, the bird beats its wings in darkness. Junayd's courtyard says softly that no such room is godless. The sorrow no one witnessed, the name spoken only into a pillow, the anger swallowed before morning. None of it falls outside the gaze that does not shame. The white bird remained in the fig tree until sunrise. Then it flew over the wall toward the river, bright for an instant, then gone into light. May the grief no room has seen feel gently seen beside you. The bird flew into the high dark, and Bayazid's road opened where the city ended. Bayazid of Batam walked one winter night beyond the last houses of the town. Snow was not falling, but the air carried the clean iron smell that comes before frost. The roofs behind him were low and dark. A few lamps trembled in their windows. Ahead lay the road, pale under stars, and the bare branches of mulberry trees. He had prayed for many years. He had fasted until the body became light. He had kept silence until words seemed like pebbles at the bottom of a clear stream. People had begun to say his name with reverence. Some came to touch his cloak. Some asked for blessings. Some repeated his sayings before he had finished living them. That night, the praise felt heavier than blame. Bayazid stopped at the old gate where travelers entered Batam by day. The gate was shut, but a small arch stood open for those on foot. Wind moved through it with a hollow sound. He stood there a long time. Then he lifted his face and cried from the center of himself, "Lord, how does one come to thee?" The night did not split. No star fell. The mulberry branches remained black against the sky. Then a voice came, not from the road and not from the air, but from the place where his own self had been standing guard. "Leave Bayazid and come." He was still. It was not what he had expected. He had thought perhaps another prayer would be given, another discipline, another mountain to climb. Instead, the gate asked for the one thing he kept carrying even when his hands looked empty, the name by which he had become someone. Bayazid looked back toward the town. There were rooms there where people knew him. There were students waiting for words. There were stories already gathering around his footprints. To leave sin was one thing. To leave reputation for holiness was another. To leave even the wounded pride of being misunderstood was harder still. A beggar sat near the gate, wrapped in a torn brown cloak. Bayazid had passed him earlier without noticing. Now the man coughed, and the sound was small but human. Bayazid removed the wool shawl from his own shoulders and placed it over the beggar. Then he sat beside him on the cold stone. Neither spoke for a while. The beggar slept. Bayazid watched his own breath whiten in the dark. Before dawn, a student found him there. "Master," the student whispered, "why sit outside the gate like one with no house?" Bayazid smiled faintly. "Because I was told to come without Bayazid, and I found him clinging to the door." The student did not understand fully. Few do at first. The self that suffers loss also tries to make a palace out of suffering. It says, "My grief, my story, my wound, my special exile." Even pain can become a name polished by handling. Bayazid's gate is not a command to forget what happened. It is an invitation to lay down the hardened name built around what happened. A person may have been a spouse, a child, a friend, a keeper of a house, a strong worker, a trusted voice. Then loss comes without asking. The old name breaks in the hand. For a time, nothing else fits. But beyond the gate, the friend does not call only the old name. When morning came, Bayazid returned to Batam quietly. Some still called him saint. Some called him mad. He listened, bowed, and walked on. The beggar kept the shawl. May the name life took from you not be the only doorway home. Past the gate, a road bent through orchards where an old man planted in moonlit soil. In Shiraz, where gardens hold the scent of water even after dark, Saadi once came upon an old man planting a walnut sapling by moonlight. The man's beard was thin and white. His back was bent like a bough left strung for many years. Beside him lay a small iron spade, a clay jar of water, and a bundle of straw to shield the young roots from cold. The garden belonged to a merchant, but the old man had tended it since the merchant's father was alive. He knew which wall warmed first in spring. He knew where ants carried crumbs after weddings. He knew the sound of each gate hinge. Many trees in that garden had grown tall under his hands, and many people who had praised their shade were now themselves beneath earth. A young courtier walked with Saadi that evening. His robe was perfumed, his boots clean. He watched the old man lower the sapling into the pit and laughed softly. "Grandfather," he said, not cruelly but with the carelessness of one who still believes time is a private possession, "why plant a walnut tree at this age? Its fruit will come late. Thou wilt not sit under its shade." The old man pressed soil around the roots. His hands were dark with earth. He did not answer until the sapling stood upright. Then he poured water from the clay jar, slowly, so it would sink and not run away. "Our fathers planted," he said, "and we ate. We plant, and others will eat." The courtier had no quick reply. The garden seemed to hear the old man better than he did. Leaves shifted along the wall. Water moved in the channel. Somewhere a nightingale gave one note, and then withheld the rest. Saadi looked at the sapling. It was hardly more than a stick. A goat could have ended it in a mouthful. A careless foot could have snapped it. Yet the old man tucked straw around it as tenderly as if preparing a child for sleep. The courtiers said, more quietly, "Does it not grieve thee to plant what will not be thine?" The old man wiped his hands on his robe and looked toward the older walnut trees, their branches black against the moon. "Many things were never mine," he said. Still, their shade was kind. He lifted the spade and moved to the next pit. Saadi kept the answer. It had the taste of bread given without display. Later, when he wrote of kings, beggars, fools, and lovers, the old gardener's sentence lived among them like a root under stone. For one who has suffered a loss not chosen, the future can feel like a field taken by strangers. Plans once watered with care may no longer bear fruit for the one who planted them. A room prepared remains empty. A journey imagined is not taken. A life expected does not arrive. The old gardener did not deny this ache. He knew he would not crack those walnuts with his own teeth. He knew another hand would gather what his hand had placed in darkness. Yet he planted, not because the future belonged to him, but because kindness does not need ownership to be real. There is a peace hidden in such planting, not a bright peace, a soul-colored peace, the kind that kneels, covers roots, and lets the moon do its quiet work. Years later, perhaps, children would throw sticks into the branches and laugh when the walnuts fell. They would not know the old man's name. They might never imagine his bent back under the moon. Still, the tree would answer him in its own way, with shade, with leaves, with the small hard fruit of a love released from being seen. May what cannot return become a seed that does not demand your watching. A walnut fell into a well with a small hollow sound, and Nasreddin looked down after the moon. One night, Nasreddin Haja walked home late from a wedding. The musicians had packed away their drums. The last guests had gone muttering through the lanes, full of rice, lamb, and opinions. Nasreddin carried a small parcel of sweets in his sleeve and a borrowed lantern in his hand. The moon was round above Axahir. It followed him along the mud walls, over sleeping rooftops, and past the mulberry tree where boys tied their donkeys in summer. The night was so clear that every puddle held a little sky. Near the old well, Nasreddin stopped. The well had a low stone rim, smoothed by generations of rope. He leaned over it, partly because the lantern had gone smoky, partly because a man walking home from a wedding will inspect almost anything with great seriousness. Far below, in the dark water, he saw the moon. Nasreddin gasped. The parcel of sweets slipped deeper into his sleeve. "Ah," he whispered, "what a calamity. The moon has fallen into the well." He looked up. Clouds had crossed part of the sky, and in that moment the real moon was hidden. The well held the only moon he could see. Nasreddin set down the lantern. He found a rope with an iron hook used for drawing up lost buckets. With careful urgency, he lowered it into the well. "Do not fear," he called down. "Nasreddin is here." The hook struck the water, then sank. He pulled. It caught on a stone or root below. Nasreddin felt resistance and nodded with satisfaction. "Hold still," he said to the moon. "This will be easier if neither of us panics." He braced one foot against the well rim and pulled with all his strength. The rope tightened. His turban slipped over one ear. The hook held fast for a breath, then sprang loose. Nasreddin flew backward and landed on the ground with a thud that shook the sweets from his sleeve. He lay there stunned, looking up. The clouds had moved. The moon shone high above him, whole and calm, sailing through the deep blue as if it had never known a well. Nasreddin touched his ribs, winced, and smiled. "Praise be," he said. "I am bruised, but at least the moon is saved." The old well kept its silence. The water below trembled with the reflected moon, broken now by the hook's disturbance, but the sky above remained untouched. This is why Nasreddin belongs among dervishes. His foolishness opens a door that cleverness often misses. He sees the reflection and thinks the moon has fallen. He struggles, sweats, hurts himself, and only when he is thrown on his back does he see the true moon where it always was. Grief can be like that well. After a loss not chosen, the mind leans over dark water and sees something beloved trembling there. It thinks the whole light has been lost into depth. It lowers ropes. It hooks stones. It pulls until the body aches. Sometimes what was lost was truly lost. Nasreddin's tale does not turn graves into reflections or absence into a trick of water, but it does ask for one upward glance. Not everything beloved has fallen into the well. The form may be gone. The room may be empty. The voice may not return at the door. Yet the love that made the form luminous may belong to a higher sky than the mind first sees. Nasreddin gathered his sweets from the dust. He brushed them off, considered the matter, and ate one. Then he lifted the smoky lantern and walked home under the moon he had rescued by accident. May the true moon above your loss remain quietly whole while you rest. The moon traveled west, silvering a poor man's road toward a city he had only dreamed. Rumi told of a poor man in Baghdad whose house had become as empty as a winter nest. The shelves held dust. The flour jar gave back only the sound of his hand scraping clay. He had sold his extra blanket, then his brass tray, then the little knife his father had used to cut melon in summer. Each evening he lay on a reed mat and listened to the city through his cracked wall. Donkey bells, water cellars, distant laughter, the slow closing of wooden shutters. He did not envy loudly. He was too tired. But his heart had begun to feel like a locked room whose key had been dropped into a river. One night, after hunger had thinned his sleep, he dreamed of a man standing beside a fountain in Cairo. The man's face was bright but ordinary, like a stranger seen once and remembered forever. "Go to Cairo," the dream figure said. "There is treasure waiting." The poor man woke before dawn. The room was dark. No treasure shone from the floor, yet the dream had entered him with the force of a command. He set out with almost nothing. The road was long. Dust entered his sandals. At caravanserais, he slept near animals for warmth. He crossed towns where no one knew his name. Hunger walked beside him like a second shadow. More than once he wondered whether grief and poverty had made his mind invent a cruel lantern to follow. At last he reached Cairo. Its gates rose before him. Its markets roared with sellers of cloth, spice, copper, figs, and fish. He searched for the fountain from his dream. He found it near a mosque, with water falling into a stone basin under lamps. That night, having no money for lodging, he slept near the fountain. But Cairo's watchmen were looking for thieves. There had been robberies in that quarter. Seeing a stranger curled in shadow, they seized him and beat him with staffs before dragging him to the night officer. The officer was not without sense. When the man had recovered enough to speak, he asked, "Who art thou, and why sleep here like a thief?" The poor man told the whole story. He told of Baghdad, the empty house, the dream, the long road, the fountain. The officer laughed until his belt shook. "Fool," he said, though not with full cruelty. "Many times I myself have dreamed of a treasure in Baghdad, buried beneath the stove in the house of a man with such and such a street and such a door. But I am not mad enough to cross the world for a dream." The poor man went still. The street named by the officer was his own. The door described was his own. The stove was the cold little hearth beside which he had slept hungry night after night. He bowed, hiding the sudden dawn inside his chest, and left Cairo as soon as he could walk. The road home was no shorter. but now each mile carried him towards something buried under his own floor. When he reached Baghdad, he entered the empty house. Dust lay just as he had left it. The cracked wall listened as before. He moved the stove stones and dug with shaking hands. There, beneath the place where his hunger had lain, he found the treasure. Rumi's tale does not mock the journey. Without Cairo, the man would never have trusted Baghdad. Without the blow of the watchman's staff, he might never have heard the officer's dream. The road that seemed to take him farther from home returned him to the place he had not known how to search. Loss can send a person across an inner desert. What was familiar becomes barren. What was near seems empty. The heart travels through strange cities of anger, bargaining, numbness, and fatigue. Yet sometimes the forced road reveals that something quiet was buried under the very floor where sorrow slept. The man did not become rich only in coin. He learned that the house he had cursed had held a secret. He learned that the dream that wounded his feet was not a liar. He learned to kneel at his own hearth. May the road loss forced upon you lead softly back to the ground within. Under the hearth lay not only coins but a spool of old thread, and Attar's final tale began to unwind. Attar told of an old woman who heard that Yusuf, beautiful Yusuf of the old sorrowing story, was being sold in the market of Egypt. By then the rumor had crossed many streets. Buyers were coming with purses heavy as ripe fruit. Nobles sent servants ahead to clear the way. Merchants opened chests of gold. Women watched from latticed windows. Even the dust seemed to rise early, eager to see what such beauty would bring. The old woman lived in a poor quarter near the edge of the city. Her roof leaked in winter. Her hands were bent from spinning. All she owned of value was a little thread wound around a wooden spindle. It was not fine silk. It was common wool, uneven in places, twisted by tired fingers beside a small lamp. When she heard the news, she wrapped the spindle in a corner of her shawl and walked toward the market. The sun had not yet grown hot, but the square was already full. Men in embroidered robes stood near the platform. Brokers called out prices. Gold flashed. Silver bowls were uncovered. Fine cloth was lifted for inspection. Each bidder tried to make his offering seem larger than the rest. Then the old woman pushed through. People laughed when they saw her. One man said, "Grandmother, have thy wits gone wandering? This is not a stall for onions. Kings are bidding here." She held up the spindle. "I have brought this," she said. The laughter grew. Another man asked, "What can that buy?" The old woman looked toward Yusuf. In the tale, his beauty was not merely the beauty of a face. It was the beauty of a soul that had passed through pit, false blame, prison, and separation without losing its light. "I know well," she said, "that my thread cannot buy him. But when the names of those who loved Yusuf are spoken, let it be said that this old woman also came with what she had." The market quieted for a breath. No one mistook the thread for gold. No one changed the laws of sale. The old woman did not carry Yusuf home. Her hut did not become a palace. Her spindle remained a spindle. Yet something had happened that the scales could not weigh. She had refused to let poverty keep her from love. She had refused to measure the worth of her offering by whether it could undo what could not be undone. Attar loved such souls, the ones who arrive with almost nothing and are not ashamed. A sigh, a tear, a thread, a worn prayer mat, a crust of bread, a single step toward the beloved. These look small in the market of kings, but the friend weighs differently. For one carrying a loss not chosen, the old woman's thread is a mercy. Some losses cannot be bought back by effort. No bargain retrieves the vanished hour. No clever sentence restores the old room exactly as it was. No pile of gold purchases the person who has gone into the unseen. The heart may stand in the market with only a thread. It may say, "This is not enough to change what happened." This is not enough to bring back the voice, the house, the health, the future I imagined. Still, let it be known that I came with love. That is not defeat. It is a kind of peace too quiet for applause. As dawn neared, the old woman returned through the streets with her spindle under her shawl. Perhaps some mocked her. Perhaps some forgot her before noon. But in the hidden register of longing, her name had been written among those who did not stay away because their hands were poor. At the edge of the city, reeds grew by a narrow watercourse. Morning wind moved through them. One reed, cut and hollowed, would someday become a flute. Its music would not bring back the reed bed. It would only remember with such tenderness that separation itself became song. May the little thread left in your hand be enough for sleep. Dawn touched the reed bed, and the flute fell silent without losing its song. Thank you for spending this hour with the reed flute. If this brought you a moment of peace, consider subscribing. Rest well and sleep deeply.